All right. I thought today we would talk a little bit about the total shoulder replacement that I had in December. I've got some video in the can, in the bit bucket, that kind of covers some of the recovery process. But first, why don't we talk about why? So I took these photos from my doctor's office, and what you can see here is 4-stage osteoarthritic shoulder degeneration. And over here on the left, you'll see what I call cartilage. I think the doctor has a different name for it, but this is a nice smooth surface on your bone, and then your humeral head fits over that and rubs on that, and your shoulder should work nice and smooth. However, over time, and especially if you add a little bit of abuse to it, it starts to degenerate. And you can see here where part of the cartilage has started to deteriorate, and then over here where it's even worse. And let me scroll up just a little bit. This is the same thing, kind of zoomed in. My shoulder's actually a little bit worse than this one. There's no cartilage left on that. So when I move my arm, it was just rubbing bone on bone here. And this is something that's probably been, I don't know. I've been taking the maximum dose of several different pain relievers for 10 years. 5 years ago, my primary care physician recommended that I look into having a total shoulder replacement. And it's been a while it took a while, I guess I should say, to be able to get to the point where I could consider that. So in December of this year, I went and saw a specialist. This will be the second one. And so this is my shoulder pre-surgery. And even though that's flipped, yes, that is my right shoulder. So what you can see is that the shoulder kind of hangs down here at the bottom of the socket, and there's no pad or space in between here. That's the bone just rubbing on the bone. So what happens is they go in and they cut off the top of this humeral head, and then they also cut into this and they replace this piece with a pad. And there are a lot more technical videos out there on YouTube with people who actually know what they're talking about, but that's the gist of it. Basically, they're going to cut this off with what looks like a multi-tool to me, and then they drive a replacement head in there, which is made out of titanium. I'll show you that in a second. And then they replace this with some synthetic type pad. So if we scroll down, this is what my shoulder looks like now. So essentially what they've done is they trimmed the top off of the humeral head. They've drilled a hole in my arm and they pound this thing in there. And then this little thing that you see over here is not attached to this. It's actually holding in this pad that goes around. And that's what this shaded space in here that looks like a space. So one thing to take away from this is that there is actually space between this bone and the implant here. And so when I move my arm, it is now gliding against a surface that is smooth, and this bone is actually smooth as well. They actually start, when you rub bone on bone like this, it starts wearing and pitting, and so the surface will become uneven, and it can cause a fair amount of pain. I can tell you that up front. And it can also cause your arm to kind of just shift. It's like, I don't know if you've ever driven an old car with bad ball joints that wanders all over the highway, but that's kind of what's going on with the shoulder here. So it can be a little bit tough to pilot. And, when I would go out and spend a day riding motorcycle or cutting firewood, other activities that I enjoy, even with the maximum dose of pain relievers that I was able to take, and then tramadol and naproxen were the two primaries. It still hurt. And the truth is, when you take an anti-inflammatory like naproxen, at least for me, while it may help the pain level a little bit, it actually makes this issue worse because you reduce the inflammation and the joint kind of flops around a little bit more. Here's another view of the new humeral head. You can ignore this. This is the heating element in my Milwaukee heated sweatshirt. But I put this in here because you can kind of see the pad that this little bolt, if you will, is attaching. So this is the new synthetic cartilage there. And there's no gap here. It's nice and tight. It looks to me like there's a little tiny gap here between the top of the original bone and the bottom of this implant. The doctor says that bone and soft tissue will grow in around that. So one of the things that we're waiting on, my movement is pretty restricted, although I am thankful I'm out of the sling a little over a week earlier than what I had anticipated, so I'm pretty stoked about that. But the bone actually has to grow around this implant. It's held in there right now by friction, and over time the bone will grow around this little nub and here, and it'll hold it in there securely. But that can take well, I don't know how long. I don't remember, but it like 6 months is what they told me before I could, consider riding the motorcycle again. And then a year or two, I think it'll continue to grow around that, which matches up with my experience with at a motorcycle accident when I was quite a bit younger and broke my leg. And so I've got a tibia nail in there, and it took quite a while for the bone to grow around that damaged spot and the tibia nail. And, now it's nice and solid. Although when the weather changes, you can feel it. I mean, that's a real thing, at least for me. So anyway, that's kind of an introduction to why I had the total shoulder replacement. And as I have some time, I'm going to be editing videos up that talk about the recovery process, which is quite lengthy. It's not something that you're going to have done and then all of a sudden be like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. No, I am at about the 6-week mark, and now that the sling is removed, I'm feeling a lot more positive about it, in that, I'm able to move my arm some. The more I move it, the more motion I regain. But there's also some, I'm not going to call it pain because it's different from what it was prior to surgery, but there's definitely some discomfort in there that might need to be alleviated a little bit to sleep. But overall, I am taking considerably less medication now than prior to surgery, and I anticipate that's only going to get better as time progresses. So, for those of you motorcycle riders out there who are old enough to possibly have done some damage to some body parts, in particular your shoulder, if you're interested, like I said, as I have time, I'm going to be posting some video on the recovery process, and, hoping that in June I'll be posting some videos about some motorcycle rides and how that works out for me. And then I would guess it's probably a year or two before the strength of the joint itself returns to what it should be, because it, bone doesn't grow overnight, at least not a lot of it. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to have a look at this and see if it turns out well enough to post. And if it does, I'll throw this up on YouTube. And if you have specific questions about the shoulder surgery, post them in the comments and I will reply. Just keep in mind, this information is not professional advice. I am not a doctor and I don't play one on YouTube. So, whatever I'm saying is simply my interpretation of the events that have happened to me. Take them for what it's worth. Listen to your doctor, not to me, and enjoy. All right. That's it. We'll talk to you later. Anthony out.